All right, I think I'm live. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the launch of Global AI Zurich. I'm José Luis Latorre, and it's so great to see many of you here ready to start this exciting journey together. Global AI Zurich is part of the Global AI community, so let me quickly share my screen, entire screen. So, no audio, share. Uh, Alex, can you share the screen, please? Hi, Philip. Nice. So I was saying it's part of the global AI community. So this is an organization created by Microsoft, led by Hank Bollman, and also with the inestimable help of Alexander. So, and it's super cool to be part of it. And it's all about bringing people together who are interested in AI, whether you are experienced or just getting started. This group is for you. This community is for you. It's a place to learn, share ideas, and discover what's possible with AI. Our goal is very simple: to create a community where we can explore AI topics together, whether it's Azure AI, Semantic Kernel, AutoGen, or anything else you're interested in. We want this group to be a place where we can learn from one to another, work on interesting projects, and make meaningful connections. To this, even we have an exciting schedule. We have people from all around the world and in super exciting projects. We will start with a keynote from Dr. Alexander Wachtel, who convinced me to start this group in, I think it was like 3 months ago in Microsoft offices. This will be followed by sessions from the Microsoft AI team and also AutoGen team. You will hear from Mats um, about some Semantic Kernel, Chi Wang on AutoGen, Luis Quintanilla on .NET and AI. I think it's an impressive lineup. Thank you so much for making this possible. It's kind of a dream made true. And we'll finish with a talk with Aymen Further from Microsoft Switzerland about building AI applications in the cloud. All right, but before we begin, I love to hear from you. So this is the lineup. As for me, I'm simply José Luis Latorre. I'm usually on the .NET Zurich user group. I'm the last 2 years focused quite a lot into AI. I did a couple of courses, and yeah, today, some months ago, I decided to start this because it's my passion. I'm quite into AI orchestration with .NET and agentic AI. So this is the agenda I already mentioned. You have read it plenty of times. But now I would like to ask you a couple of things. Okay, that was not it. It okay, I already. Oh my God, let me take that away. I'm logging in because it decided to log me out. Thank you, Mentimeter. And I will present it. So if you can go to mentimeter.com or menti.com and use this code, or if you trust me, which I hope you do, you can scan this QR code. I'll give you 1 second. Meanwhile, I'll check the comments. Hi, Alex. Hi, Boris. Hi, Philip again. I've been to stands once in Lidl. Ooh, nice. Yeah, pretty cool. So I share that. If anybody needs still to see it, I will move around very quickly. So I'm asking you, what topics do interest you? So we have Azure AI, Semantic Kernel, AutoGen, Agentic AI, which is a topic I personally love a lot. Mads knows, also Chi knows, and of course, Luis Quintanilla also knows, and everybody that knows me know we can review papers, analysis, or maybe something else. So you take your chance. I would like to hear from all of you. Please make the vote. We're trying to listen to you. At the moment, my favorite is winning Agentic AI, Azure AI, Semantic Kernel, AutoGen, AI papers. Ooh, nice, beautiful, cool. So I let that open for a bit more. So technically I have from 6 to 6:10, and it's going well. All right. I think we got the gist of it. 36 users, only a few answer, and by the way, I am checking the event in LinkedIn. Did it start? Because it says live today, 6 p.m., but I don't see it started. Just checking that out, Alex. But the LinkedIn event seems not to have started. I see that working on in YouTube, but not the one in Global AI Zurich in here. I will share it in the private chat. All right. But that's okay. And we will move to the next one. So we got 16. People keep voting. So I'm going to change the slide. Last moment, last chance to vote. Okay, next one. So next question is, what kind of events would you like? Hands-on workshops, more talks like this that you're going to have, deep dive talks, an in-person conference, which is something we are considering, one more conference about AI, an in-person meetup, or simply a meeting up in networking. So make your voice, make your choice. We will take care of that, or we will consider that at least. Deep dive talks, hands-on workshops, in-person conference, in-person meetup, more talks, networking. Ooh, no networking. Why networking when we have AI? All right. I'll give 30 more seconds. You can also click on the thumbs up. I think I can also do that. Yes, no, not really, just the audience. You're lucky I can do that. 12 persons. Oh, nice. I like thumbs up. I love them. Good. Okay. 16. I'm going to move to the next slide. And what depth in the content would you like? Introductory, intermediate, advanced. So introductory is, are you in prompt engineering? Intermediate would be, are you starting with AI orchestration, like starting with AutoGen, starting with Semantic Kernel, or using the Azure or the OpenAI SDK, or you are advanced already with agentic AI? Where are you? What would you like to see? All right. 16, 17. Cool. Nice. I think that's it. I don't have any more slides. So your feedback will help us to make sure future events meet your needs. So also feel free to share your thoughts. You can follow me or any of the persons that are speaking today in LinkedIn. We are probably easy to reach. But yeah, let's move into looking ahead, the last part, because I'm almost out of time. Looking ahead, we will be organizing regular meetups, initially online, maybe some workshops, and maybe some hands-on projects. We will see about that. We want this group to be an active and friendly place where we can learn, share, and grow. On top of my list, it's my favorite topic, which I mentioned, which is what I believe is the future of Gen AI, agentic AI. This aside, thank you for being here tonight, and let's work together to make Global Zurich a great community. And I will give the word to Dr. Alexander Wachtel. Thank you again for being here and making this a possibility, Alexander.
Hi there. Thank you for the great introduction, and it's a pleasure to be here. And welcome also to the Global AI community. That's really cool that you started this one, and I'm happy to present and also give you some insights on what we are working together also here with Microsoft. And I will talk about the AI agents. And so my name is Alex. I am CEO from a company. We're providing Microsoft consultings and so on. And I've done a PhD on the active dialogues management system for natural language user interfaces. So we have built chatbots before the chatbots were cool with ChatGPT, so the old way. So I'm an MVP since 2020. I'm trainer since 10 years right now. And what we are doing, or what we see in the Microsoft perspective here, is this kind of slide. If you have something right embedded AI, so you just activate this one, and you can just use it somehow. So you need a Microsoft Copilot for this. You create it on your tenant, and you're set. You are going to present this one. So, for example, if you see you have some boundaries there, you have here the whole Microsoft Copilot core system here, and you have your graph inside it, your data, your content, your emails, files, meetings, chats, and so on. In the first step, the user prompt will be provided and grounded also with more information in Microsoft Graph. And we are going to see there are, of course, more plugins, some more possibilities to get more insights from the other connections. But in the case we are done, we are going to do this modified prompt to the large language model, ask the Azure OpenAI instance that's only maintained in our Microsoft tenant. Each Microsoft tenant has an own instance, and the prompt will respond. Also, in a step 4, for example, there's a post-processing step on the compliance and purview step on the Microsoft Graph that checks, is it beside the rules? Is it okay for us to answer this information to the end user, and so on? We're going to seek and provide information to the end user. So that is something that you can use just like a self-service. It depends on your data in the whole Copilot system that you are using, that you have license for, and so on. The next step is, of course, the composable AI. So we are doing no code or to pro code somehow, and we can also looking, so for example, so for Copilot Studio, and we can build here also like a decision tree. There's a chatbot that we are providing the dialogues, how to react to somehow one instance or to another, and are going to present the information here in the chat system to the end user. Perspective, if you have done chatbots earlier, you have built this one completely on your own. You have provided dialogues and looked for the GUI for this one. That is something that is provided somehow completely by Microsoft in a Copilot Studio ecosystem. So there's a lot of topics, of course, you have to define. And also the new one, the possibility is to get a GenAI there, the connection to your Azure OpenAI service, for example, also to your SharePoint data, to public websites you want to ask the question about this one. You can just provide the information here. That's only 1-2 steps and you are done. That's really quick how you can start on this one. So if you want to just try it, it's only you need a license and you are done somehow. So the next one is where the magic comes from, when we want to build our own AI system. So for example, we are data scientists. We want to build our own machine learning machine models, or we are going to use, for example, the Azure OpenAI Studio or Azure AI Studio. You can also use Semantic Kernel SDK. The guys after will talk about this one a lot, so I let it to them. But I'm really excited about the prompt flow builder, because every time you're going here or also there, you provide the information from the users. You get the input, you react to the output. So you send your input, you modified your prompt, you send it to the system, to your large language model, or also perhaps to a small language model somehow, and you get the response. So there's no possibilities on this one to get this done and somehow to create something like, okay, I want the prompt to be like different as what the language models provide the information to me. So of course I have Azure OpenAI Studio, can use Azure AI Studio, so I can use both if you like. Of course, there's a lot of information here, so we can provide for the Microsoft systems the information on our data, where it comes from. For example, is it public data? Is it SharePoint? So we use it for internal only purpose. Or is it data for on Azure OpenAI, or somehow, or we upload these to the storage or use the search service to grab the data that comes from whatever instance you want. If you are going to see about somehow the prompt flow, then you provide, of course, input and output. So, and then you say, okay, if the input is this one, then perhaps go there and grab this wiki or search for some information there, do some processing steps, and then give it to my chat. Then I'm going to show this for my end user somehow. So I can do something like this there and just manipulate or edit the response between the input and output beside the information I want to have here. So I can build here several LLMs, several prompts, Python scripts, and so on, and work on this journey somehow. If you are going to check from the chatbots to fully autonomously AI agents, so that is a long way to go, because earlier we talked about chatbots. Chatbots are just simple chatting system with the end user. So you provide the input, you get your output. You provide the input, you get your output. If you check for the RAG systems, then you ground your you're grounded with the real data, with the customer data, with the data from your input, from the tenant, for example, and so on. So there's not only the input and the output. So you have something in between that the LLM can ask and provide information to you. Specific depending on your data somehow. So if you're going to see the copilots and fully autonomously agents, then we are talking about semantic kernel a lot. That is our agents that work side by side to us and wants to provide us the possibility just to call them and provide some tasking. And we are talking about the AI agents, of course, if they are working like a humans. So somehow if we are going to check the possibility. Okay, are we ready to go? Yes. Have I provided this functionality? I can say to the system what functionality I need. If the system acts like a human, perhaps that is something like, it can, depending on my input, on the data, and so on, provide me the possibility that is it not really inside the programming code that I have not even provided the structure, and so on. So that is one from the possibilities that I can do right now. Of course, about Semantic Kernel, you can use this one as if you are a professional developer in Visual Studio Code, of course. There's also a great course on LinkedIn from José that I really like. I have seen this one, and you get your insight for professional developing with Semantic Kernel. Just check this one. We provide later the link for this one. You can, but also starting on no-code, low-code possibilities in Visual Studio Code with Semantic Kernel tools that came from the same team, but I'm really like for the end users just to start in your natural language and provide the information to the system, and to not only the possibility for the developer to work on this one, but also for the end user. Then last but not least, I want to invite you to the technical summit that will happen on 15 October this year. It's online for free, all in English. We have multiple speakers there and 6 tracks. Just check this one. And then I'm ready with my talk. And thank you very much. I hope I'm on time. And Jose, you're back on stage, and that's really great. We have done this kind of opening, and behind on what you have seen, what the people are wanted. Perhaps the next time will be in person, perhaps as a great conference, Merrill Trask, whatever we want to do. We can do this next time if you like.
Beautiful. So just saying, I will be in that conference as well, so online. So I expect it to be pretty cool. All right, let's move on. But again, thank you, Alexander, for motivating me to create these and for you helping setting everything up. Kindly appreciate that. Thanks so much.
Thank you very
That
much.
said, I would really like to invite to the stage Matthew Bolaños. And yeah, I think, when I invited him, he was the Semantic Kernel GMP, the group product manager, and well, things move quick at Microsoft, Matt.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So y'all might have known me as Matthew Bolaños, so there is a name change. So if you're looking for me on LinkedIn or something, you might have to search for something new. And as
one
Jose mentioned,
second.
oh yeah.
There's one thing I want to say. I was in the MVP Summit in March, and I would say that one of the best sessions ever was the one from Matt. And he's super motivational, super passionate. You will enjoy seeing him talk. I plan this not to be the first, not the last time I have you here. So, and that said, have a main question. Who are you? What do you do? And what's your role?
Oh yeah. So regarding role, so when I was invited to this, I was the group product manager for Semantic Kernel. As my little label shows here, that's changed a little bit. I'm now in Azure AI platform, and now I'm the group product manager for all things agents. This has nothing about kind of the future of Semantical. We're in the process of interviewing some very qualified people to kind of backfill me, and I'm like, oh wow, these people are better than me. So it's going to be in really good hands. And my kind of goal joining Azure AI platform is to make sure Semantic Kernel is a bigger part of kind of the overall development story that we tell from Azure. But yeah, Jose, over the next 30 or so minutes, I'd love to talk about both Semantic Kernel and kind of the updates that are coming for Azure AI. I know in the poll that you showed, there was a little bit of interest there, and so I can kind of share what's coming up there. Oh, you're muted.
That sounds really definitely interesting. I love your new title because it shows that something cooking up, something you can speak already, because I never hear these thing Azure agents.
Yeah. So I hope y'all know what Azure Assistants are, which is obviously kind of us porting over what OpenAI built. It's this thing in a service that you can give a bunch of tools, whether it's the built-in tools or your own custom tools, and then you can talk to it. And the nice thing about it is it, of course, manages those tools for you, and it also manages your conversation states. And so no matter if you're using Semantic Kernel or AutoGen or even LangChain, any of these different SDKs, you're having to do quite a bit of work to just do state management. And what we in Azure are proud of is with Assistants, that is something that we just handle for you. All you have to do is talk to it, right? And I'm going to be very vague, but I'm sure you can imagine. And I'll let
Uh,
folks know when I'm ready.
Matt, you're sharing the wrong screen. Can you change to the other screen?
Yeah, I'm not sharing anything right now.
Okay, good.
But in the future, you can imagine that this will evolve into Azure's agent offering for Microsoft.
Nice. Sounds super, super interesting. So I will make a very simple question. What do you think about Gen AI, generative AI?
In general, yeah. Well, so maybe this is where I can kind of share my screen. Over the last, I'd say, since all this Gen AI stuff has happened, we've been slowly kind of working our way up the stack. And so when I joined Semantic Kernel, kind of the challenge was like, how do we just get these AIs to call tools or plugins or extensions, whatever the latest name is for these things. And so when we introduced, I'll go ahead and share my screen again. When we introduced Semantic Kernel, we had the concept of plugins. These are things that you add to the AI for it to call. We had this concept of planners, which started off as these really large prompts in order to have the AI actually call these plugins. And then we started introducing this concept of personas or system prompts to actually kind of control the AI and how it actually use these plugins, right? And what's nice is each one of these pieces have been slowly baked in natively into the models, right? So with plugins, OpenAI released a concept of plugins. They've moved away from that and moved to tools, but it's something that they built directly into the system. With planners, we used to have all these open source projects of how do you actually coach the AI to call these tools, but that's now part of the AI models as part of tool calling or function calling, right? And then with personas, they now have system instructions that you can give to the AI so that it knows what it should perform as, right? So if you have a coder agent, having it be able to act the part and call the right plugins. And so as I look at generative AI and how it's progressing, what I have really learned is what we do from the SDK pieces, from the API levels, is a lot of, and what y'all do as customers is a lot of the hard work that y'all do today to actually make these things work are slowly being consumed by the models themselves. And I think the most clearest example is OpenAI's release of the new O1 models that now has this chain of reasoning, chain of thought inside of the model itself. And I suspect over the next few years,
to me, it sounds and it's quite interesting because it looks like it's not simply chain of thought, but it's kind of a strategical chain of thought. So it has a layer that is doing kind of a strategy, how to approach any problem or question.
Yes, and to do something that complex previously, you would have to basically build all these different, we call them agents now, and have them kind of work together to do this.
1 second, responding to Boris, no, we are not sharing any screen. Not yet. Or you want to?
Sorry. Okay, I forgot to share the share button. So
all right.
I talked about was plugin planners and personas and these different elements. So yeah. So as we kind of advance Gen AI, I would expect this stuff to come more into the models. What is still left for us as SDK authors or as you as customers is that kind of next level. Okay, so now that folks are able to easily create tools, easily use something like function calling, like planners, easily use things like personas to create a single agent. And as I mentioned at the top, Azure is providing this as a service with Azure Assistants, or what will soon be called Azure Agents. What comes next? And I think there was a lot of interest in AutoGen and these more agentic patterns, which is taking these singular agents and having them work together. And yeah, there's a bunch.
You're making my work easy because I don't have to ask you anything. You're going straight to the next topic, so it's fantastic having you here.
Yeah. I guess before I move to multi-agent stuff, do you have any questions on like semantic kernel?
No, I love the topic. You know that.
And you're going to get a lot more multi-agent with AutoGen.
Oh
yeah. But I can share from the perspective of my previous team, Semantic Kernel, and Azure, where we really think these multi-agent systems are going to be helpful, right? A lot of the research is showing that these things can work better together, but better together to do what? And my assumption is most of y'all today are in some sort of company that is trying to drive automation, drive productivity with these agentic systems. And what I have experienced most recently is I actually had multiple insurance claims that I had to file in the last couple of months. And just from the outside, I saw just how much manual work was necessary from the claims examiner. My particular claims examiner had to reach out to me a dozen times over multiple weeks just to reach me because I'm always so busy. They have to do fact checking on the documents that I send, maybe even talking to the police to make sure I'm not lying before actually talking to billing so that I can get some money. And these processes that all of you as customers actually want to automate, actually make better, is very complex for a single agent to do. Right? You could imagine using something like Semantic Kernel. You could imagine using something like Azure Assistants and giving it the ability to talk to the user, talk to the police, provide insurance, money. The list goes on and on and on. But if you've used these LLMs in the past, you quickly realize that if you give more than a dozen tools, these things start to hallucinate. They perform poorly. You don't have the control that you need, right? And so what they'll talk about with AutoGen is, of course, you can use agents to kind of orchestrate these pieces. And what we are doing both in AutoGen and Semantic Kernel and Azure is building out frameworks to make it really easy to wire these pieces together, right? And everything's kind of coming up, tackling this from different angles. She can share what the AutoGen approach is. Semantic Kernel is looking more like how do we build workflows. You see things like LangGraph, which is more of like this directed graph approach. And what I'm excited from a
Well,
Gen
LangGraph is kind of
stuff
tree of knowledge system that enables to do a lot better RAG work and retrieve the proper information that matters. So we are looking for a knowledge in a knowledge tree. So it's a pretty cool thing, to my opinion. But coming one step back, how do you see the role of developers evolving with semantic kernel ability to orchestrate complex AI tasks, agentic workflows, and now this new component, which is mentioned, these Azure agents?
That is a very good question. And for me, I love how different parts of the company are tackling different parts of this problem. Like AutoGen is figuring out how do we wire all these things together and make sure that these agents actually collaborate. What Semantic Kernel and Azure are focusing on first, though, is if you're going to have a multi-agent workflow, you better have a really good single agent that can participate and work with one another, right? And so the role of Semantic Kernel and Azure Assistants or Azure Agents is for this singular process, this microservice that's going to collaborate with others. How can we continually make it better for it to reason using the latest models? How can we provide it with tools to perform retrieval for RAG? And how do we actually give it actions for it to do things in the real world, right? Semantic Kernel has made it incredibly easy to add these skills. One of my favorite demos is just like the home automation scenario. To add a new,
I love that one.
right? Like to add a skill from Semantic Kernel, it's as simple as just authoring a class, authoring some functions, and giving it to the AI.
Can you make it a bit bigger, the font,
yeah,
so the audience can check that out properly?
Yeah. So here we have a class called lights. It has just two functions. I'm semantically describing it so the AI knows what this function does, what it can do. It knows that this has an input on what the new state of the light bulb is, turn it on or turn it off. And with things like Semantic Kernel, you add a line of code, it gives it the plugin, you tell it that I want to automatically call these functions, and you let it loose and it can provide answers to you. So here, if I say toggle on the lights, we can see from the debug console that the AI is able to use these tools to pull this information from the get state, change the state of the light bulb, and we can see that the AI was actually able to turn on the light, right? And so that's the value of something like Semantic Kernel. It really helps with these bottom two pieces. And with Azure Assistants, you still need to, of course, use Semantic Kernel to provide the tools. But with Azure Assistants, we're now providing tooling on top of this entire process so that you can start visualizing what's happening. Because it's built in Azure, you can infinitely scale this stuff. Because it's inside of the Microsoft ecosystem, you can secure it, right? You can use all of the different services within Microsoft in a very secure integration. That's how I see all these pieces coming together, right? Semantic Kernel for bringing those tools, Azure bringing the services, and ultimately projects like AutoGen helping us piece together these singular agents to do much more complicated processes.
That's an interesting name you use, singular agent. Sounds like singularity.
Yeah.
Coming to that particular question, at the moment, my point of view, in semantic kernel is we are quite limited, while in the terms of agentic workflows that we can implement, while, for example, other frameworks like AutoGen is quite more flexible. They have evolved quite a bit with sequential chat. We can have nested chat and so on, right? So the question is, if we want to implement that, what solution should we choose? Should we pick?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So AutoGen's kind of been state of the art. They're part of research. They can kind of share what's coming next in this space. And what my previous team, Semantic Kernel, does is kind of watch what's happening in the ecosystem, and we will take whatever is resonating. Obviously, AutoGen is extremely popular, and making an enterprise version of it. And so today with Semantic Kernel, if I go ahead and share my screen again.
Meanwhile, you do that, I would like to add that what Matt's explained is completely true. So it's if you are doing some business application, that's the choice to make with .NET, observability, and business-ready software, at least for enterprise, right? And they are adding things really, really fast. So today there was a blog post in the Semantic Kernel blog about observability using the open standard, which is something really, really good, or it's already set up with Aspire. Probably if you attended the Build conference, you already saw quite a few talks. Don't want to spoil that. Maybe Luis will explain something later on the topic, but I think it's a fantastic platform for .NET. And yeah, AI is exciting, but what is better than AI? It's doing that with your favorite language, and there comes Semantic Kernel to do that with your language of choice in business applications.
Yeah. And so what you're seeing here, let me just get this.
A bit bigger.
Yeah, we'll make it bigger, and we will, let's see if we're great. So what you're seeing here is basically the semantic kernel port of AutoGen. So we make it easy for you to create these new agents. So here we have a chat completion agent. This is supported both in our Python library and in our C# library. You can provide, of course, like the instructions, the persona, the name of this thing. This one is like a reviewer. AutoGen has this pattern where two agents can kind of collaborate together. We have a writer version, which is actually creating those ideas. And then kind of the different way how semantic kernel supports this stuff is you create a group chat just like in AutoGen, but we have a concept of like termination strategy, selection strategy, so that it's you can create your own custom way of how these group chats kind of function together. And then in this case, we ask for some concept, and it kind of allows these agents to go back and forth in order to create the right content. So here I'm asking the AIs, hey, create a way for multiple AI agents to collaborate. The copywriter provides an initial answer. The art director kind of provides some feedback on how to make it better. And the copywriter finally provides the right answer, right? Now, this is a very trivial toy sample. The AutoGen team has even more complex scenarios. But this is just kind of showing that semantic kernel is taking the latest and greatest research, baking it in. And because behind the scenes this is using semantic kernel, all those rich enterprise kind of guarantees that we provide are there out of the box. So all of this is exciting, and I think we've mentioned LangGraph. There's been a hunger from our customers to have a LangGraph equivalent in semantic kernel, and so that's also in the works and will help piece together multiple agents together in more of a directed graph experience.
I like how it sounds. Coming back there, as agentic systems become more autonomous, what limitations do you see in current LLMs, large language models, and how is your team, or maybe past and next team, facing and addressing them? We lost you, Matt.
I clicked the wrong button. Sorry about that. Okay, repeat your question.
Yes. As agentic systems become more autonomous, what limitations do you see with current large language models, and how is your team, or your past team and your new team, addressing them?
Yeah. I think that the challenges we're now having are similar to what we have with humans. Like you can't really trust what they do, and this will always be true, right? And so similar to how we've built systems for humans so that there's multiple rounds of approvals, that there's automated checks to make sure that people are doing the right thing, we're basically having to rebuild all these systems, but for these agentic frameworks. And so what I'm excited about from my new position in Azure is instead of kind of like reinventing the wheel, we do have systems today to kind of monitor people. Like we have the Microsoft Admin Center. We have things like Microsoft Defender. And if we can take these agentic things these frameworks and actually integrate it with existing Azure services or even things inside of Microsoft 365, we get out of the box permissioning. Hey, what authorization does this agent have? We get a bunch of tools out of the box. Writing documents in Word, creating decks, doing analysis in Python inside of Excel. So that's kind of where I'm hoping that we can take the limitations of these models and kind of give them superpowers with the rest of Microsoft's ecosystems.
All right, pretty cool. Pretty cool. Regarding these Azure agents, when will these be released? Is there a timeline? Is that already, I guess, public that to mention, but I have never seen anything about it.
So as I mentioned, Azure Assistance is a thing that exists today, right? It is currently in preview. And our next big marketing moment is Ignite. So you can kind of imagine that we would want to make it not preview. And as part of that, we want to give these things more capabilities. So today we just have as tools for these assistants, these agents, the code interpreter, allowing to write Python, or the file retrieval, which is like the easiest way to do RAG. So like if you haven't tried file retrieval with an assistant, I highly recommend it. Like you just throw files at it and it can do RAG for you. It's amazing. But you can imagine like people want to do more. They want to be able to search for public data. They want to be able to access Microsoft documents. They want to be able to reason over structured information. So I'm being vague on the details, but you can imagine us providing additional tooling for Azure Assistants, for Azure agents, so that you can just achieve more out of the box, right? The biggest pain point today, in my opinion, is creating all these tools for your AIs, doing evaluations to make sure it works. We as Azure want to like take that load off of you, provide the tools so that you can do more fun things, right? So you can focus on the business critical APIs that are unique to your business that the agents can work on, to work on those workflows or those multi-agent systems so that these things can start collaborating. I hope a year from now, no one is having to like re-implement RAG. Like I want to get to the point for all of you that y'all just click a checkbox within Azure, say, hey, these are my documents, do RAG for me. And y'all can start doing more interesting things around agent automation.
Pretty cool. Thank you so much. We still have like 6 minutes. So I have a couple more questions. What are some upcoming features or improvements in Semantic Kernel that developers should look forward to?
Yeah. So as I kind of mentioned at the beginning, like you were asking, like, what's the future of Gen AI look like?
Yeah.
We just keep going up the stack, right? Because if we don't, the models will just consume those features, and then like, what's the value? Like,
I have to discuss that with you because I agree partially. So LLMs can do so. So, for example, a great example that you put and are mentioning always, I'm quoting your words, is function calling, right? So the LLMs, the models can decide what to do. And they can tell you, hey, I want to execute that. So you don't have to get them to think what should they do. But on the other side, there are some techniques based in, I think the most advanced one, I saw that in a session in the office hours of AutoGen, is called LATS, Language Agent Tree Search, right? Which makes that you can train an agent to take some decisions, like, for example, browsing through some place to buy some product, browsing through some website, and taking decisions autonomously. And it's kind of impressive. And honestly, I don't see that any time soon coming to engrave into an LLM by itself, right? Because it requires to create a tree, to explore that. It requires some coding, right? It requires some. So it's for me it's kind of to me a planning and also ability to learn, because it's kind of, I think this feature in AutoGen is called teachability. So I can foresee that the future of agents will include memory, the ability to learn, and it's quite scary.
Yeah. Which to me is like going up the stack, right? Those
Yes.
basic things that models do, Semantic Kernel frankly doesn't have to do it anymore. And so it's how do you integrate with Azure Assistants. So we have that easily available, so you can connect to it using those services that we're building in Azure. So you can imagine a lot of the research that AutoGen is doing will just become services, because we want to, again, we don't want you to have to use something, ideally a year from now, using something like AutoGen or Semantic Kernel to build out and deploy a memory service, right? These are things that should come out of the box. So you check a box and you have learnability or teachability, right? And the reason I say this is my experience with customers is you start, and this is all software development. You have a project, you work on it for 6 months, you hit deploy, and then you put one person on it to make sure it doesn't crater and go bad, right? And you don't look at it until maybe a decade later when you're like, wow, this is really bad. We should like update it, right? Because this AI stuff is moving so fast, if we have y'all like code all of this stuff and deploy it, the science is moving so fast, it's getting so much better, that my fear is people are going to build something that's out of date in 6 months to a year, and y'all don't have the patience or the funding to go back and fix it, right?
You're telling me. I mean, I created my course. I think it was out from my hands in end of March. You know that, and now part of it is obsolete on the part of planners. The rest is completely operational, right? But I'll have to do an update soon. I have one last question. What is the role of open source contribution in shaping the future of semantic kernel or these Azure agents, if this is going to be open source, and how can the community get more involved?
Yeah. I would say both semantic kernel and what we're doing in Azure is highly influenced by the open source community. And so contributions to things like AutoGen or many of the other Microsoft research projects ultimately bubble up into things like Azure services or semantic kernel. Semantic kernel is open source, and so you can also contribute to that. What we see from folks is they have a specific enterprise need, and that's when they'll make contributions to semantic kernel and kind of make it better. So we have this really great ecosystem in Microsoft, which is unique to Microsoft, right? Like we have a whole research division that is doing things in the open. Like that's less true for AWS and Google. So it does provide an opportunity for all of you to find out what's new, right? Participate in that research, see what's coming next, so that you know almost like a year in advance what's going to eventually become an enterprise service offering in Azure, and maybe like 6 months in advance of enterprise quality SDKs within semantic kernel. So we have this really great pipeline that we can provide customers like yourself. Oh, Jose, you're muted.
All right. So again, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to having you on the stage. It's cool to have you here today, and I'm looking forward to what you get done. And I guess I'm pretty excited about what's coming on at Ignite. Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
All right. So next we have Chi Wang. Chi, hello.
Hey, Jose, how are you doing?
I hear you well. So I'd like to introduce Chi Wang. He's one of the founders of AutoGen, the agentic framework for excellence. I think one of the most complete frameworks, which is quite exciting because it has a lot of papers, a lot of implementations of different applications like the labs I just mentioned. It's already implemented in AutoGen, and it's super spectacular. So, but let's back to Chi. Chi, can you explain who you are and what is your role? And also, I would say that Chi was recently principal researcher at Microsoft, but not anymore, but still has a fantastic commitment to AutoGen. So thank you for that.
Yeah, my name is Chi. I'm a founder of AutoGen and also another open source project, which can be considered as a parent project of AutoGen. That is called Flammo. Flammo is for automating machine learning and hyperparameter tuning. So AutoGen was initially developed inside Flammo and later spun off. So I've been working on that for like 5 years since Flammo's inception, and recently focusing on AutoGen. Yes, as you mentioned, I worked at Microsoft Research for 10 years. It had a very wonderful time there. and recently I left, but I'm still working on the AutoGen open source project in a new GitHub organization called AutoGen-AI. It's a more like open governance community. Yeah, so I'm continuing growing the project and increasing its impact in the industry. Very nice to be here.
It's perfect. So, Chi, what do you think about generative AI and, more important, agentic AI?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So it's funny that when you talk about these words, if I think about what I'm doing in my PhD, I was doing like topic modeling, which is a generative modeling at that age. It was the last generation of technique, but being able to have the generative capability has been a long dream for the machine learning and AI researchers. It's just that 20 years ago, we didn't pass the bar of having a really reliable, high capability of generating text and images like the techniques we have today. Now we certainly passed that bar, and so we need to think ahead. Once we have that very fundamental capability of generating, instead of just doing some closed domain kind of classification or regression, what can we do more? And I think agentic AI is the next step, and that's most maybe effective leverage of this superior capability of generating text and content, and push that forward and make the AI to be really able to execute complex tasks on behalf of the human. Generative AI will be a fundamental, important supporting technique inside that agentic AI scope. And we need more. We need more techniques to leverage that, maximize the power of it, and build strong agents that can do more things. So that's my view of the relation between like generative AI and agentic AI.
That sounds pretty cool. I'm also curious, what inspired you, and I believe, to create AutoGen? How did it come to life? How did you have this idea of seeing these multi-agent things transforming AI applications? Because you had that idea quite some time ago, which is quite inspiring. And also to add that, how did you do that together with the other creator and founder of it? I think it's King Yong Wu. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's a very good question. So it's a combination. I think the creation of AutoGen is a combination of the external technical revolution, especially the ChatGPT, and plus my personal experience in AutoML world. So the beginning was that when GPT showed the strong capability of generating text and code, I was trying to see whether we can combine that with AutoML techniques. For example, use AutoML to further improve the performance of the GPT models and see how much room we have in the inference time. And turns out there's a big room for improvement in both of the quality and the cost by using AutoML to tune them. And also during that experience, I observed that it's not enough to just use model to one inference to solve complex tasks. We often need to do multiple inferences or even combine with other code execution or tool using. So that opens up the question like, what is the real effective way of using the model for applications? Is there a big room for like different designs if we have these powerful models already? So I had a very early belief that the answer is yes. So there's indeed a big design space about how to use these models, and if we just focus on that, there's no good framework at that time. It was a very early, like in the end of 2022 or early 2023. There was no like good single framework that can incorporate all these different design patterns I've seen that works. Even I was just scratching the surface. I already realized there's a big room and there's big design space, and we need to.
You're mentioning design patterns. I imagine you're speaking about agentic workflow, the different types of agentic workflows, or maybe something else?
Yeah, so even before the agentic workflows, so that's right. So that's like early last year. Even when we don't think about agentic workflow, I just think about how to use the powerful language models, generative models, to solve tasks like generating code, right, or developing software. It's how should we do that? Even at the time, even before I found the agentic abstraction, I think it's big problem, and I was looking for one intuitive concept or abstraction that can allow developers to easily think about these complex workflows and build them. I spent quite some time until about the time when GPT-4 was released. I realized this agentic abstraction or concept can be that intuitive concept to build all the applications on. So that was the early time when but as soon as I had that idea that agent is the right abstraction, I have no doubt anymore. So I stopped kind of shopping around, stopped like back and forth. I say, okay, this is the right thing. This must be the right way to go. So I'll just do it. So that's the time when I talked to Professor Chi Wang from Penn State University. I convinced her that this is the right thing to go, and this is the right timing. Way before maybe many other people believe agentic workflow is the future. So we started building that around last April or May, and spent a few months in like iterating. There's a lot of changes along the way, and roughly at September October time, we think it's right time to like move this AutoGen out of the Flammo project. Yeah, before that, every single code is written in the open source Flammo project, and around that September October time, we moved it out and started to getting attention. So
Cool.
that's kind of the short history about it.
That's very nice. It's very inspiring. Thanks for sharing, Chi. Could you share one example of a real-world application that showcases the power of AutoGen, of agentic AI in the industry, like finance or healthcare?
Yeah, there are so many different applications that keep inspiring me. I can talk about some examples. In the finance or close to finance industry, there's a use case of from a VC studio, venture studio called Better Future Labs. They use AutoGen to build an entire team of agents that can start from a simple business idea and do all the hard work of like finding information from the web or from other databases, start doing analysis for different aspects like market analysis, competitive analysis, technical viability. There are 5 or 6 different areas. And then start generating reports with very comprehensive content of all these different aspects. And eventually it will finish a long report or investment memo that can be used for the analyst to decide whether to invest. So usually that would take a human analyst a week or longer to finish the report for even one idea. And it's very expensive to hire them. After they use AutoGen to build the agents, they can finish that task in about 7 minutes for one task and just paying a small fraction, like
I'm just asking
1%.
the audience.
Yeah.
Would you like to hear or see Chi building such a example live in maybe a future event? That would be pretty cool. I don't know if you would like to do that, but I think that would be super cool. And that's it. I would like to call you behind YouTube or behind the event in LinkedIn. If you have any question, write it in the chat. That would be really good. So if it's not only me that can ask things, so if I see some question and it's interesting, I'll be happy to ask them to Chi, of course. All right. Then what makes AutoGen different from other multi-agent frameworks? I mean, the approach to me is key. So basically, you enable different kinds of agents like user proxy, the assistant, the group manager, and then you enable different kinds of interactions that you can implement, right? And that is, I think, where's the superpower of AutoGen comes in. So you can create a group chat where you can put different agents and one chat manager that decides who is going to speak next. And you can create a sequential chat, and which is a sequence of actions that will happen one after another, or one agent after another. And then instead of one agent, or one agent can wrap also a chat. So you can put, for example, these what you just proposed is expert in finance, and these can have a board of different experts that he can delegate work to, right? So I think this is one of the things I really like, that you can build really, really complex, I like to call it agentic AI workflows. But what would be your point about what is the difference from these AutoGen offer from any other one?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think AutoGen started early and started with a big ambition of like future forward-looking thing to think about really hard what the future AI applications were like and how do we empower like every developer to build all of that. So the design, there are several like design principles. For example, we want to have one single intuitive unified agentic abstraction that can unify different type of entities like models, tools, and human input, and make it simple to build a very complex compound AI systems using this simple concept. We don't want the developers to learn like 7 or 8 different abstractions to be able to really use it. So that's one. Another very important part, as you mentioned, is a super flexible multi-agent orchestration. Like this includes many different specs. For example, depending on the applications, sometimes people want more static workflow, sometimes they want more dynamic, sometimes they want to use natural language to control the agents, sometimes they want to use programming language. There are other specs like do they share context, or do they like isolate working isolated environments? Do they cooperate, or do they compete? And do we want to have centralized or decentralized control, or do we want to have human intervention or automation? So these are all the like different choices that different developers, and depending on different applications, they may want to choose, and we want to make sure we support all of that. And there's also a big consideration of like we want to not only the framework is general, but it really has very effective implementation of the different agentic design patterns, including the different conversation patterns. As you already mentioned, there are quite a few different of them, including the like prompting reasoning techniques that are useful to make agent to behave strongly and solving harder reasoning problems, and use it like tool using, planning, or integration with multiple models and modalities, and memories like retrieval augmentations, right? So there are all sorts of like new and effective agent design patterns we make sure the pyramid can support. So if you look at the AutoGen framework, it's really so it's very difficult. It's very difficult to kind of meet all the diverse requirements while still keeping it relatively simple to learn and use, right? Because we need to basically find the minimal set of concepts that are essential, and decide what are the first to consider and what are the secondary and third, which can be all incorporated into the first order design. So eventually we found that the multi-agent conversation can be that first order kind of mechanism that we want the developers to think about. And it turns out that is simple enough, but also comprehensive enough and flexible to incorporate all the other secondary considerations. And it's also integrable with other agent techniques like OpenAI Assistant or Llama Index, LangChain, and so on. There are a few other agentic frameworks. In my opinion, they are like maybe specialize or focus on some particular starting point and handle certain scenarios also pretty well. But AutoGen, I would say, is most comprehensive and flexible.
All right, pretty cool. I would say that if anybody in the audience wants to learn a bit more about AutoGen, there is a nice course in deeplearning.ai from Chi Wang and also from King Wu. I hope I'm pronouncing properly the name. I don't speak Chinese too often with Chinese names, but I hope it gets close.
Yeah.
So I think it's really good. I did that one. It's pretty good, and I love deep learning AI. We have one question. Well, we have two questions from the audience that I will say from Philip. Thank you, Philip. He's asking about agents building more agents, which I think there's something called auto build, right? Could you explain a bit more what it is and what it does?
Yeah, that's very. I did want to mention that it's a very interesting new research, and also getting. Also, it's going to be a new feature in the AutoGen library. So the problem it's trying to solve is now we have this flexible framework, and we can build whatever flow we want easily. But still, it's a huge space. The developers often still need to try different setup of different agents or different communication patterns to figure out what works best for their particular application. In general, we want to reduce that effort because that's going to be the main burden moving on. So we can apply the idea similar to AutoML. Can we allow a user to just provide the task they want, and we help them to design like what agents to have automatically. Auto build is the first step towards that goal. So it can take a task. Let's say they want to find paper on archive for certain domain, but they want to repeat the task for many different situations. But can we generate one team of agents that are very good at doing that task automatically? So AutoBuild will do that for the user. And there's so AutoBuild is already in the library as a experimental feature. And there's even later research that extends that idea to say, not only we can build an agent team for one task, but we can dynamically generate different agent teams for a complex task when we perform each step. So you can do a planning and decomposition for the task into different sub-steps. And for each step, we can create a dynamic team. And also we can revise on based on the progress. So that's an even stronger thing called adaptive build. And we can wrap it up as an agent called captain agent. So the captain agent will generate sub-agents and the teams on the fly.
That sounds super powerful.
Yeah. And we show that performed. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'm dying to see that.
Yeah.
I read some articles, but never play with that. So I play with the Python version and with the .NET version, which is pretty cool. So you have good persons there working in that bar, because I'm mostly a .NET person, but wow, it's super cool. And also play a lot with AutoGen Studio. It's really a beautiful thing. So nicely done. Ekaterina Mishina is asking us if on the use cases that you presented, if you have any reference you could share, maybe in the private chat. I think we cannot put any comment in there. They are blocked, so only the host can, and I'm not a host. So something, I was invited, but something did not work, so cannot do that.
Sounds good. Yeah, I will share some blog post link.
In the private chat, probably you can paste it. It will not work on the comments. You can do that at the end or simply share them. Oh, cool. So I will take them, Katerina, and share them in the meetup page. You have them right there at the moment. So I put some links in there, including deep learning AI. So already. Oh yeah, thanks. Somebody pasted them already. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Alexander. What role does community feedback play in shaping the evolution of AutoGen?
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. So ever since the beginning, we moved very fast based on the iteration of users' feedback. We started like with very simple two-agent communication, and we found that already worked pretty well with the user proxy agent and the assistant agent for many tasks, and it's even possible to make the agent improve by themselves by adding new skills and so on. And along the way, we kind of extend that from two agent to more than two. That's a big step forward, and a lot of feedback was taken from the different users of building different types of applications. And only after seeing all these different diverse applications, we know what is needed really in the framework as a common and shared infrastructure and can handle all the diverse situations. And later, like when we had this standalone open source project, we also got a lot of contributions, not just feedback from the community. There are several very good examples. One is like the financial state machine-based group chat, where you can have the developers to give more precise control of the transition order between the agents and the conditions of the transitions. It's yeah, I think the LangGraph has a similar kind of spirit of that, and this is a more generalized version of that. And this is like contributed by the community and spent for like multiple months. And another important feature is tool use. Derry Ranch was also a European contributor. He made it really easy to register tools for the agents and calling tools by another agent. So that you can just define a Python function in your typical way. You don't need to make any extra change, but just add a simple decorator for the Python function to convert that into a tool that's consumable by the agents. Yeah, there are tons of examples like this. So I really appreciate the support of the community and their feedback. And there are also many passionate users like making tutorials or like videos, talking about the different aspects of make it very rich content. So I really appreciate that too. Yeah. Sorry, I'm muted.
Thank you, Chi. I think it's super exciting to see your passion for the community and be so thankful. I think it's one way to really motivate anybody in the audience to go to the repository and contribute. So I think we have like 6 minutes left. I think that makes time for one short question and then a final statement. What excitement, new features, or ongoing research we can expect to see in AutoGen in the near future? I know that there is a new AutoGen UI getting big, and I have seen incredible things going on lately in regards to benchmark, in regards to these auto builds. So what's the next more exciting thing or things that are going to come to AutoGen?
Yeah, AutoBuild is obviously one important feature of these examples. And at a high level, there are several areas we're making progress. Now, there is evaluation, that is interface, there's the learning / teaching / optimization. Let's start from interface because AutoBuild is one example in that. In that category, we still, I think the center element for AutoGen is to provide really easy to use program interface that handle different use cases. And we're constantly adding or making it easier to still lower the barrier of entrance. And AutoBuild is one effort you can see to reduce the effort to decide what agent to use. And as I mentioned, AutoGen Studio is another example of making it easy for even non-developers or even for developers to reduce that effort to start experimenting with all different ideas with a no-code UI. And there's another example of making it easier to build distributed agents and platform, so which is called composable actor platform. So you can create agents at different places and connect them into a central platform and discover what others are doing. That also increase the type of production scenarios you can apply the agent to. Yeah, so that is big category, and for evaluation, we know it's a big pain for developers to understand how successful my agent is for my particular application, and often it takes a lot of effort to really read what the agent's behavior and understand how effective they are. So we are adding like agent-based evaluation tools so that you can use agents now to do this job for you, automatically check the logs and suggest success criteria, and then analyze like what they're doing well and not so well. And the third part is so if we further try to take that further, then we can improve agent also over time by looking at the evaluation results and optimize their performance, take lessons, take teachings from other agents or human, and improve over time. So we also have a lot of interesting examples of research and preliminary features in the library. Moving forward, we will make AutoGen even more kind of easy to use it as both a research tool and also production and ready for production use.
All right, I think that responds that very well. There is any plan to implement OT OpenTelemetry in AutoGen?
Yeah, so there's already several different ways we support like logging and observability. There's some native logging implemented in AutoGen. You can save the log in database or files. And there's also integration with other observability tools. One recent example is Agent Ops. That's a like startup focusing on agent observability, and they have a very nice integration with AutoGen. In general, it's open interface that can be extended to support different platforms. OpenTelemetry could be a very good one to add.
Oh, you don't know about the audience, but this is time is flying. Talking to all of you, super interesting people. So I've got one last question before saying sadly goodbye to you, but we have not too much time. So what's the future of agentic AI, in your opinion?
Yeah, so I think agentic AI is just in its beginning stage. We're just scratching the surface, but I already see a big promise of solving even more complex tasks in future. So right now we're generating reports, we're generating short content for the short videos. We already see that comes capability, but in future maybe we are able to generate the entire movie from the end
Oh my God.
by agents, right? So we can think about where's the limit. I don't think that's a fundamental limit. It just takes time to improve the capability of the agents, improve the scalability, verification, resilience, robustness, and so on. So I do see that I think very
better,
projections.
faster, stronger, basically.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Time is kind of up. So Chi, it has been an absolute pleasure and an honor having you here on the stage. I feel next time I invite you, we should get 1 full hour, 2 hours, or maybe even more, because time is flying. Speaking to you, it's super, super interesting. But yep. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been a fantastic honor having you, and I think all of the people here. It's a fantastic lineup. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate that.
All right. So yeah, now we will move to the third or fourth key person in Microsoft project or AI project in in the stage. So welcome, Luis Quintanilla, Senior Product Manager of Microsoft. I know that you are leading the .NET for AI initiative. You have key people. I've seen you live coding next to stuff doing a fantastic demo on Aspire with Semantic Kernel. So welcome and thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and thank you for all the folks who are just tuning in, right, and just the community coming together and learning about these exciting new technologies. I'm actually very impressed that you're keeping us all in time. We started on the dot, so very impressive.
You know, I live in Switzerland. We like
Yep.
clocks, right?
Amazing.
Did you know the last thing? We are not letting the German trains to come into Switzerland if they are too late because they are delaying our own trains. It's crazy.
That's amazing. I am impressed. Let agents and AI try to do that.
Ooh.
Yeah, no, but yeah, like I said, I'm super happy to be here.
Yeah, it's an honor. So, Luis, would you mind telling us who are you and what is your role exactly at Microsoft?
Yeah, absolutely. So the title itself, right? Senior product manager, working in the developer division, specifically focused on AI and .NET technologies. Been around for quite some time, even before the pre-GPT days. So worked on ML.NET a whole lot, which is this framework for building machine learning and AI applications, right? Typically, that's our initial focus with ML.NET was classical machine learning problems, which are still useful and relevant today, right? And more recently, right, we've introduced more deep learning capabilities into ML.NET. But yeah, go ahead.
I think it's a fantastic project. I've been following that. Even I did some talks on ML.NET, and I think it's still evolving. I think it's quite cool. So regarding ML.NET and turning away from the topic a bit, what are the key improvements or the latest improvements on ML.NET and that you think will make the biggest impact on developers building AI solutions?
Yeah, absolutely. So from an ML.NET perspective, a lot of the focus that the team has been having is more on the fundamentals, right? So to give you examples of that, last November in .NET 8, we introduced these new types and set of operations known as tensor primitives. And tensor primitives is building on top of years of development in the .NET ecosystem around generic math, SIMD, which I forget what it stands for. It's like single instruction, multiple data, right? Basically, you're parallelizing and processing of data super efficiently. Sorry, did I lose you for a second there?
Yeah, I lost you as well. Yes.
Okay, weird. Okay. All right. But yeah, so basically leveraging a lot of the capabilities for high performance computing and numerical computing, right, that the .NET ecosystem has been making throughout the years. And so tensor primitives built on top of that, right? And coming into .NET 9, it's continuing to focus on those fundamentals, because one of the things that the .NET team does, quite well is building those common set of abstraction, building those exchange sites, and building those foundations, right, that the higher level sort of frameworks, libraries, and scenarios can build on top of, right? So the semantic kernels, the AutoGens, the whatever of the world, right, is building on top of. And so we're really focused on those fundamentals. Specifically around ML.NET, that means that for one, ML.NET is getting better because now these native operations and these native sort of components can be brought into that ecosystem, right? But even more importantly, ML.
I think we are losing you, Luis.
Oh, that is so weird.
Oh, yeah.
Huh. Am I?
Can you come back 10 seconds and repeat?
Weird. I don't know why it was. Okay, is this? Yeah.
All right. So Luis is dropping and reconnecting. So think about anything you want to ask to him. Are you back, Luis?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, we do. You are back. Okay, not anymore. We'll give a moment. Technical problems. We need that. Solving technical problems already. So I think ML.NET is pretty cool. I think I can try to show what Luis was showing. So to show you something, and I'm going to present my screen while we wait for Luis to come back. So screen 2, sharing no audio. wonder, Alexander, if you can share the screen. Yes, this is the URL of ml.net, what Luis was speaking a moment ago. And it's built for .NET developers. It's basically doing auto machine learning, which he was speaking before. So maybe he worked with that or with other implementation, which is basically machine learning doing machine learning for you, so you don't have to. We love machines doing or AI doing work for us. It's integrated in Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, and we can do a lot of incredible things from recommendation, classification, segmentation, detection. So any kind of task at the moment, even lately, this image classification, I think this is going on what Luis was mentioning a bit before. Now we have kind of a model builder, which is, yeah, what do you want to do? And I will make it for you and choose the right model. Even you can put your data and it decides the best models to try. And then you can train and evaluate, or it can evaluate for you which is the model that will work the best. So if you have a kind of, I would not say simple thing here, you can, hey, Luis, welcome back. I was just showing a bit
Yeah, thanks so much.
about ML.NET. So to make time for
Apologies.
you, I
Yeah,
will stop sharing. And this is what Luis was explaining, this TensorFlow more, I think. And by the way, ONX appear first in ML.NET, the Super 4. So it's the reason we have ONX, and this enables a lot of scenarios today for accelerating and enabling speedy inference. So if we see here on accuracy and runtime training, it's really, really, really fast, thanks to the fantastic integration behind what we see. Luis, correct me if I'm wrong, but I will stop
yeah.
sharing. Uh,
No, thank you so much. I apologize for that. Hotel
no
Wi-Fi is
worries.
the worst. But yeah, as I was saying, one of the nice things about these fundamentals is not only does ML.NET benefit, right, but so does the entire ecosystem. You were just talking about the ONNX sort of runtime. There's Torch Sharp, right, which is the set of .NET bindings for the PyTorch set of libraries. And so a lot of these fundamentals that we're building, right, can really enable that interoperability across the various frameworks and libraries that exist in the .NET ecosystem. And again, right, by extension, the things that are built on top of that can leverage that, including, again, the semantic kernels of the world, the Onyx of the world, and many other libraries that exist out there.
Cool.
Yeah, and so beyond the fundamentals, right, the other thing that we're doing in the .NET team is we are partnering with other folks, both inside of Microsoft as well as outside of Microsoft. So internally with Semantic Kernel, working very closely. So Matt's had the pleasure of working very closely with him and his team. While he was on Semantic Kernel, looking forward to continuing to work with them. But also, from FLAML perspective, I don't know how many folks may have heard of that, but we work with Chu and the folks in the AutoGen team back when they had been working on FLAML, and that's actually what's backing a lot of the AutoML capabilities inside of ML.NET. So again, seeing both of those folks, it's really exciting to share sort of the stage with them, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you're doing fantastic things there, and you and your team, right? So I would also give. I have to give credit to one special person in your team. I was talking some time ago. I was presenting in the Zurich in the .NET Switzerland about AutoGen, and I was talking with what was it? Sorry about that. Yes, Xiao Yung Sang, which is part of your team, right? And
Yeah.
collaborating and jumping into kind of part-time working in AutoGen team for .NET, which
Yeah, absolutely.
thank you for that.
No. It's amazing. The work that Shoryun has been doing, sort of contributing to the AutoGen system, right, and building a community and sort of a space for .NET developers to build, explore, and experiment, right. I think it's nothing short of amazing. But yeah, I mean, that's again, right, like that's just another example of the partnerships that we're having both with internal folks, but also externally, right. We've been doing a lot of work there. Of course, we have SDKs for OpenAI. There's also SDKs that we've been working on. Most recently, we published a Pinecone SDK, right, for working with vector databases. We have Quadrant, Melvis, a lot of that external ecosystem,
Cool.
right? Yeah.
I was completely unaware of that.
Yeah.
That's,
Okay. Well,
surprising.
we need to do a better job of marketing it then. But yes, we've been having a lot of those partnerships, which again, right, it's all about building the various levels of the stack because as you know, working with semantic kernel, there's the connectors and things like that. And the idea or the goal is that as those partnerships and those SDKs become available from a .NET, at the lower levels in the .NET ecosystem, right? Semantic kernel and libraries like that can sort of enable you to sort of surface them and integrate them into your applications.
So talking about ecosystem, how do you see the future of the AI ecosystem with .NET?
Well, I can't tell you what it's gonna be like in like the next 2 months, right? But I think generally speaking, it's a little bit of it's sort of a two-track thing, right? And I think both Chu and Matt sort of alluded to this, that there's definitely sort of the enterprise, right? And from a .NET perspective, enterprise developers are, the core of that audience. And so it's, the things that seem to be a little bit more stable, right? Making sure that those are available, those are solidified, that we have really good sort of abstractions, principles, foundations, right, to build on top of. But then there's also that sort of research angle as well, right? There's things that we're going to go out, we're going to experiment, we're going to explore, and we hope that you all go on this journey with us, right, to help us learn and really resonate and be like, hey, yep, this works. No, this does not work. Things like that, and sort of go on this journey. So it's a little bit of tracks, and so eventually, as those experimentations become a little bit more solid and a little bit more proven out, right, bringing those closer and closer into sort of the .NET, like the core .NET ecosystem, right? So it's a little bit of both. Looking forward, I do see sort of that pendulum sort of swinging back and forth, right? We've sort of gone in all on Gen AI just in general in the industry, right? And that's great because it's lowered the barrier. I mean, honestly, like you do text classification, you were showing sort of with ML.NET, you can do image, you can do text classification, you can do all these things and build your model from scratch. And that used to be the entry point, right? And with ML.NET, we tried to make it super easy for you to do that. But now we're at the level where like you can just, write a prompt, pass your data, send it to some service. And by the way, service not meaning Azure only, right? You can use Ollama and the set of small and open source models that exist out there.
Yeah,
right?
I think there is a fantastic work going on with your developer evangelist at Microsoft in using these local models, or smaller models that you can deploy anywhere. I mean, you can deploy them in your computer, in a Raspberry Pi, which has been done, and they work fantastically, or even in your mobile, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the nice things about .NET, right? Like with .NET, the platform where you deploy to, it's like, well, that could be on your phone, that could be in the cloud, right? Like, and wherever, and essentially the idea is that wherever .NET runs, right, we want to enable you to sort of add AI to that, right? And so, from that perspective of Gen AI, of course, continue to drive that because it has lowered that barrier to entry for many things, right? But at the same time, right, it's about offering options. And so ML.NET will continue to be there, right? The TorchArcs of the world will continue to be there because, you're going to use different tools based on your problem, right? And so you want to be able to have that flexibility, right? Just like, as a developer, sometimes you'll just write a bash script or a PowerShell script, and that's going to be amazing. That's going to solve your problem, and that's okay, right?
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah,
depends on the problem you have, right?
exactly.
Because at the end, for me, I think it all blown out some years ago when auto machine learning started, right? So, and today it's super powerful with Azure machine learning. I was Basel. I tell you, I even got what was the preview setup I have when Azure machine learning started. I think it was back in 2014 with the UI environment. So I got a wide screen just for playing with that, even it was in preview. So it's a nice story. It comes from that long already.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think back, I think Dr. Wachtel was talking about it at the keynote, right? Where it's like, we've been building these
Yes.
systems for a while, right? Like there's been a lot of the what's it called, like Lewis, Q&A maker, like these all, bot framework. There's all these systems that
Yeah.
existed years ago.
By the way, Luis is not talking about him. It's talking about Luis, Lues, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes.
Nice to see you, Philip, by the way. Thanks for stopping by. And hi, family YouTube, for tuning in. Just checking out the comments here real quick.
Cool.
But yeah, no, absolutely. Not talking about myself. I was not part of Azure. But yeah, like we had a lot of these systems, right? But and again, right, it goes back to that sort of notion that before it took a lot of work to sort of get started and start adding AI, or even start experimenting, with these technologies. And now, again, it's as simple as calling an endpoint. Like, to be honest, you could just use curl
Mm.
and it'll work, right? Like, it's amazing, the level of sophistication and the level of capabilities that Gen AI has brought.
I agree. So, could you discuss any notable real-world application in practice where .NET and AI integration has led to significant business transformation?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think in general, folks are still exploring, but I will tell you, we shared, I believe at .NET Conf last year or at Build sometime, right? That some of the, solutions that Microsoft is building, right, of the AI solutions specifically, right, are built using .NET and the .NET stack and various parts of the stack, right? You have examples we also shared at Build. We're, lucky enough to have folks from H&R Block join us as well and talk to us about how their AI tax assistants, right? Like, trying to figure out, things like tax deductions and like all the things that you need to do for filing your taxes. I'm not sure how the process is in Europe, right? But at least in the US, it can be quite complex, right? And so having an AI assistant kind of walk you through those types of workflows, right, is super helpful. And I think, initially there's definitely that initial sort of chat, back and forth interaction that's sort of been prevalent in a lot of use cases, right? But I think as Matt sort of started to allude to, and even Chu, at some point we're starting to get more into those like problems that are familiar to .NET developers, where like we're breaking down the problems into smaller portions, whether that's workflows, whether that's agents, right? Like there's many different ways that you can go about sort of implementing these sort of large and complex systems, right? But at the end of the day, right, the goal that you're trying to achieve is you're trying to sort of reduce those pain points and challenges that usually come with, with performing some of these tasks and processes, right? So, yeah.
Cool. That's pretty on the spot. What are some common challenges coming to what you just said that .NET developers face when incorporating AI, and how does this new ecosystem of .NET tools help address them? And with new ecosystem, I mean, for me, I've been playing since it was a beta with Semantic Kernel, but for a lot of people, this is something that they saw new in the previous Build conference, mostly.
Yeah. So I think I think that just generally speaking, so .NET, of course, the challenges are being faced by by .NET developers, but in general, right, it's happening throughout the industry, and I think it's already been called out in the chat as well as Mads and Chu alluded to it, which is the grounding perspective, right? Like, how do I get my data so that the responses that the Gen AI model is producing are grounded, right? And that's super critical. And so in the classical ML days, we had metrics that were in place, and we had a pretty good idea of how to measure those. I think with Gen AI, those are still developing, and we're sort of starting to come to terms with like, okay, here's a good way to measure, whether that's
I agree. Just to, sorry for the interrupt.
No.
What Luis is referring is to the non-deterministic aspect, which are LLMs, which you will never get the same response from them, and they will also hallucinate and give you sometimes too much of a creative response, right?
Yeah, absolutely, right. And I think as software developers, we're not used to that. We write a unit test, we know the use cases, and so we
Yes.
have somewhat of a deterministic output, right, from our programs. And so
Yes.
shifting that, so actually even before benchmarking,
We
mentioning
have
like,
to
hey,
change the paradigm.
yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, it's not going to be deterministic, right? So even coming
Yes.
around to terms with that, right? So definitely the benchmarking, definitely the observability aspect of it, and that's part of that sort of benchmarking. Being able to trace like what's actually happening as my data, as my prompts, as all of these things are flowing through the system, and this AI system is interacting with different parts of my application is super critical and important, right? And I don't know how familiar folks may be with .NET Aspire, right? But that's one of the things that we've shown on various sessions, which is one of the sort of the dashboard that .NET Aspire, it's this .NET stack for the stack instead of tools and libraries for building applications in .NET. One of the things that it has, it's telemetry, right? It's got built-in telemetry. It's built around open telemetry standards like semantic conventions for AI, right? Which is still constantly developing, but it seems to terms that the industry is starting to sort of really come around to like, hey, these are the sets of standards that we like to sort of
Yeah,
visualize.
yeah, and I mentioned that before. OT OpenTelemetry has just been released in Semantic Kernel, and I think it's a fantastic thing for serious projects where you want to put everything in a observability platform, whichever it is, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the dashboard Inspire is a way for you to visualize it, right? But then because it's built on open telemetry standards, right? And .NET knows what to do with those. It could
Luis,
be in Grafana, Azure Monitor, whatever it is that
I
you
I
visualize,
have a
you can
wish. I have a wish, and
go
I
for it.
guess some people will have it. When we'll have for Spire and
Mhm.
Semantic Kernel, or even for anything AI using .NET, the ability to customize the dashboards, because we need that to
Mm.
properly visualize that in Aspire. And at the moment, it's good, but it can be better.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great question. It's something that the team is looking into, right? Like, how do you, because to your point, right? Like, your needs are going to be different from other folks, right? And so being able to have that not only customization within the existing dashboard, right, but having an extensibility model such that you can plug in other things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We have a comment from Boris. So the real world is not that deterministic, but software development, we try to make it so it's just saying what you were saying before, right? To my opinion, to my brain, the way to change the paradigm, and I think a lot of people have done this already, is to think on AIs like you are using a brain that simulates process thinking, that can have a simulated personality, and can take decisions which are not always the same because it simulates creativity as well, right? And I say that with a grain of salt. Simulates, at least I hope it is a simulation or effort calculated, but I think it's impressive that you have the ability to handle these brains, deploy them in your computer, train them in your computer or in the cloud, and honestly, it feels like magic.
No, absolutely. Even just in the context of this conversation, right? You had a chance to, hear from Matt. You had a chance to hear from Chu, right? And we're all sort of trying to solve similar problems, but we're coming at it from different perspectives, right? And if we were to treat this conversation as a function of software, we're like, okay, well, what is the truth, right? What is the right answer, right? And I think we're all coming at it from different perspectives, but we're all sort of working together towards that common goal, right? Of like, how do we help developers, how do we help folks add AI to their applications?
Okay, I think what excites you the most about the future of AI integration with .NET?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think just the most exciting thing to me is like really getting to see the things that we're not even thinking about, right? Because I think right now folks are still very much in that early discovery phase of like, well, what can I do with this? And there's different patterns emerging, there's different research, and that all that is exciting, right? But at some point, people have to start bringing this and adding it to their own applications. And we have the common ones like chatbots, sort of that's been around for a while. You're seeing some new stuff starting to come out as well in terms of the types of applications that folks are building. But to me, the most exciting things is seeing what people actually do with these technologies, right? Because I think, even if we look at history, right, like with the internet, very early internet, right, it was still figuring out websites, those sorts of things, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I kind of disagree, and I disagree
yeah.
completely with. So I was watching the Garner, the Quadrant, well, AI hype, right? And
Mhm.
it says that we are in the curve of disillusionment. But honestly, as I see
Oh no.
things, yeah, that's what Garner says. So I disagree completely because I see what we can do today and how it's evolving, and we can do more, more, and more. And these things are working. Agents, multi-agents are working. You can do that with Python, with .NET, probably Java. I have not tried that. It's not my thing. But
Yeah. Oh
what
no.
do you
I
think?
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you from the perspective, like right now like whenever an application sort of shows up, right, like folks sort of like, okay, great, how can I apply this to my scenario, right? But there's even more and more coming up, right, that are constantly evolving. And the comparison that I was making to the internet, right, it's very early. It was like a lot of folks just trying stuff out, but like you would have never imagined the types of experiences that the internet has empowered folks to do, right, like today. And so I see a similar pattern here where it's like right now we're still kind of like figuring out like, oh well, how does this work in the context of my things and my needs. And the other really cool thing that I think that this is that I think is exciting. So like obviously enterprise scenarios, that's amazing, right? But I think is that empowerment that it gives folks. For like imagine having your personal assistant, right? Maybe you built it yourself. Maybe there's some service out there that's doing it for you. But again, right? a service and an assistant that can help you in your daily life, right? Like, and people building tools, people building sort of what do you call it? Like kind of like citizen development, right? Where it's like, I am not a developer. I am not really into tech, right? But like,
Don't tell me that. I've seen you live coding in the stage, and come on, come on, come on. Have
yeah,
anybody from the audience seen him in the last bill coding semantic kernel application internet? Like he was like just talking to me fluently. You were
yeah.
impressive.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, that was a good take. But yeah, right. Like just seeing the type of empowerment that this is going to bring to folks, right? That to me excites me, and I would hope that from a .NET perspective, right, we are giving you the tools, we're giving you the resources, that are going to make you and you, your company, whatever it is, that application that you're building, right, make you successful.
All right. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So I think I'm kind of run out of questions. So if anybody in the audience wants to make a question to Luis, now it's a moment.
Yeah.
I mean, well, what can I ask you? So what's in scope for you and your team? So how do you see the future of ML.NET and AI in general? Of course, there is this thing about Azure agents. I don't know, you can talk about that. Matt's good. I don't know about you.
Yeah. I will leave that one. I'll toss that one to
All
Matt.
right.
But
Fair
but yeah,
enough.
I,
Fair
th- I
enough.
think I think you can see a lot of like more, continue to see the ecosystem to grow. And by the way, the ecosystem doesn't grow on its own, right? Like events like this, and really getting the community involved in this, right? Like come again, I mentioned earlier some of the stuff, we have, kind of tried and true, and we kind of have a clear understanding of sort of how some of these things work, right? And we're implementing those components that we're like, pretty sure that they're stable, right? Bringing them closer to the .NET ecosystem, like the cores of .NET. But then there are those experimental things that are happening, right? And so like we want to partner with you all, right? We want to work with you all in the community to again go on this journey with us, right? I think that it's exciting. Boris was mentioning here something about that we're just starting, right? And this stuff is going to develop exponentially, and I agree, right? Like I think that there's so much untapped potential here that we can only build on top of, right? By kind of working together, right, and learning together. So again, this is super amazing, the event that you're putting on here, and I'm hoping that there's more of them.
Yeah, again, I would like to thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure to host you, having you here, and yeah, have this face-to-face. And it's an absolute honor, Luis. I'm super, super delighted.
Yeah.
As well, I would like to invite you for further occasions if you have anything interesting to show, which I believe you have or you will. So I would definitely want you in the stage or anybody from your team to come here. That would be fantastic. So thanks again for
Yeah.
being here.
No, happy. Thank you for having me, and happy to be here. I'm actually a little bit sad that I should have prepared a little bit more, showing you a few demos here, but let's save that one for next time.
It's good. I think it's nice to have a flavor from different personalities in AI, Gen AI world in here related to .NET and Microsoft, right? Like Semantic Kernel, like .NET for AI, like AutoGen. I think it's super, super, super pretty cool. So it's really, really exciting. This moment for me, it's I think it was the right decision to start investing a lot of time last year, and yeah, it's for me incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
No,
Luis.
thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Nice seeing you. Take care. Bye.
Ciao. Already. So next we are going to have somebody more local, more friendly. I had with him share a hackathon together last year in Berlin, organized by my company. I was participating in the organization, which was an absolute honor to have you and your colleagues in Berlin. So I like to introduce you to Aymen Further. I hope I pronounced that properly. Do I? Correct me. Probably I'm missing some accent.
I don't actually have a strong preference. Aymen and Aymen is both fine.
Aymen. So Aymen is a Microsoft Switzerland Cloud Solution Architect. He's an expert in a lot of AI things. I think you work mostly in Python, but also a bit on .NET. And yeah, I'm looking forward to what you will present today about building agentic cloud native AI apps. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited, and congratulations on the first of these events. Hopefully there will be many to come. And also really nicely collected roster today. So let me see if I can
Cool.
share my screen.
All right. So I'd like to be removed. Alexander, if you're hearing me.
Is it visible? Maybe you can write quickly in the private chat and confirm that everything works. You can hear me, you can see me, and you can see my slides. Fantastic. Happy that this part works. Yeah, so thank you very much also, José Luis, for the intro earlier on. You can hear it in my voice. I'm from Switzerland. I'm a cloud solution architect. My specialty is app innovation. So this is specifically the area where it essentially focuses on taking the capabilities that Microsoft offers on Azure and turning them into actual applications. So it's a lot of code focus and also like product operationalizing those services in a way that it provides value to the different business users. And in this function, I work a lot with various customers in essentially whenever they struggle with some aspect of their AI app development, I come in and I help them getting their projects over the finish line. And as part of that role, I picked up some tricks and some learnings that I would like to share in today's session. So I want to begin with the AI landscape. Of course, you all heard it, right? Last week, we had the release of the latest model, the OpenAI's O1 model. And what is usually being talked about in these big releases is really the new capabilities that this model offers, right? What can it do, what it didn't do as good previously? And what is really little talked about is actually what the model knows, what's the knowledge. And typically, historically, when you first used in ChatGPT, GPT 3.5, and you ask it, hey, what's a large language model? What is LangChain? You would get cryptic answers, right? And the reason is simple: the training data that those large language models were trained on, they were coming from an age before ChatGPT even existed. And for the first time when I noticed that, so at the time, it was a really good time to be a builder of non-AI applications, but you wouldn't get the same pleasure of building AI applications because the AI just wasn't familiar with this area. And for the first time with GPT-4 Turbo at the initial release, we had a knowledge cutoff of April 2023. We first had some basic understanding in the training data about large language models. You could perhaps ask it to refine a prompt, but it didn't really have an understanding about the ecosystem and how to best do orchestration. And that's really only, in my opinion, when GPT-4o dropped, that we had to step up. We had to step up on those aspects. But how can we translate these capabilities and this knowledge into real use cases? In the end, we want to reach the peak, right? We want to build a high-performing AI application, and perhaps we are currently at the base camp. We know how to build an application that is maybe a more traditional app, but how can we build an AI application? And at the first time, you may think, this is simple, right? I know how to call a REST API. I did that for 20, 40 years. It's simple. I can do an HTTP call, and that's it. I send some text in, and I get some text out. But there are actually a lot of challenges with that. It's not as simple as doing a simple HTTP call. We need to think about how can we scale to many, many thousands, or maybe tens of thousands of our users. We need to think about how can we make sure that the risks that are unique to AI applications are addressed, such as hallucinations, also the reliability aspects. And also what I found is many of the organizations that start building AI applications, they kind of fall back to old behavior in terms of testing. I really think it's important that you have business testers, so really the users of the app, in the first week that the application is being built on, already in the room, so that they can teach you what kind of questions that you would like to have asked and answered. But what I explored is often, instead of doing automated tests, we go back to this exploratory testing like approaches, which of course are no longer state of the art and should be avoided. And then there are the standard integration related challenges, such as perhaps I want to have a co-pilot application, I need to integrate into an existing application, and this doesn't go away, of course. And this is just the beginning. Then once we want to get data into our AI application, once we want to talk about information that is specific to our company or to our product, the whole topic of data ingestion pipeline opens up. And the situation is typically that we have a set of unstructured documents, and you want to translate them into nicely vectorized search indexes that you then can query. And on Azure, the best tool to crack these documents open and get nicely formatted text outputs, such as Markdown out, is really document intelligence. And you can use it to get not only Markdown, but you can also locate the images and tables. And this is really useful. In many scenarios, you actually want to perhaps even enrich the Markdown. So instead of just taking the Markdown as it comes from document intelligence, which is mostly OCR and layout understanding, you want to perhaps go and generate captions based on the graphs. This can be very useful for more advanced use cases when you, for instance, work with finance reports. Those images, they will be lost if you just do OCR. But you can leverage the multi-model capabilities of the state-of-the-art LLMs to actually generate captions from images. And then on the same way, you can actually also do enrichments for tables and generate, for instance, Q&A pairs or descriptions, even row-level descriptions, to improve this retrieve rate that you do during the RAG approach. Chunking and vectorization is quite straightforward. Typically, it requires some tweaking, some testing. There's also this mechanism of semantic ranking, where the Markdown output can be really useful. So there, what we're doing is we are making sure that chapters that semantically belong together are typically, if not avoidable, not split. And that really makes for concise and good quality answers. And then we go and we generate vectors out of it, and we need a way to store it, and that's typically a vector database or even a vector search, a vector search service such as Azure AI Search that I see with my customers most popularly used. The first 2 points, number 1 and 2, there typically you are concerned about a trade-off between costs, so how much am I spending, and quality. If you don't care about your spend and you would just want to have the best possible answers, you may even invest in pre-processing your whole ingestion during the pre-processing step through a mechanism such as graph RAG, where we actually create different knowledge-based representation and then summaries out of different areas of the data. And I personally often make the comparison of, sorry about that. I often make the comparison about like if you go to the university and you take class, you kind of do the notes, and then once you have the notes, you create summaries out of them, and then maybe you start trading the summaries with your colleagues. But it's really about sorting and structurizing knowledge that may come into you in an unstructured fashion. And then last but not least, we have insights generation and retrieval. Here, the typical trade-offs are the latency and the quality. I built this slide before the release of 01, but it was never more apparent that if you're willing to wait a little bit longer, then you get actually better responses. And I'm actually super happy that OpenAI sets a precedence for this, because I think more and more AI type experiences should be like that, letting the user a little bit wait. It can even be minutes or hours to get a better response. Okay, so we want to reach the peak, our best performing AI application. There are different paths to the peak. So not every AI application needs to be complex. If you have a simple, really easy to understand document, it can be enough to use a SaaS option such as the Copilot Studio, which allows you to just upload a couple of documents, and you can have a really good starting point for an AI application that integrates with Microsoft Teams. So not everything must be a month-long or weeks-long AI project. You can get started simple for simple use cases. If we go up the ladder, then somewhere between a full custom application and the SaaS option is a platform capability-centered approach. What do I mean by that? So here, I mean making use of built-in capabilities such as the ingestion jobs in Azure OpenAI service, or the data sources in the inference API, which really, in the end, keeps our AI application simple, easy to build. I just send a couple of API. The Azure AI search, for instance, is fully abstracted way, and I can essentially build something in terms of days and not weeks. Of course, disadvantages is I cannot fully tweak it as I need it. So if I'm really after those wow effects, which may require some bit more of expertise, probably most of the, let's say, folks that are in this session, they are in this category, I may want to go to the full custom solution. And I added here also one point that it's a lot of fun to build. And this is also, of course, a little bit of a warning. Don't try to jump to the full custom solution if you haven't tested the other paths first, because perhaps you're spending too much time for a relatively simple use case. Unless, of course, it's fun and time is and time is not of a concern, then please have fun and do projects. Okay, cool. Yeah, and in the full custom, that's essentially the category where you would bring your orchestration layers, such as semantic kernel, prompt flow, and really have full control about what is happening on the orchestration layer. For all of these different paths, Microsoft offers various solution accelerators. Solution accelerators are like sample implementation. It's important to understand that those are not finished products, but they can be a starting point for you to get started with your project faster. That's why they are called accelerators. And I've built this little website here. This is fully me privately building this website. That's why it's on my GitHub. That's just my personal opinionated view on the GenAI landscape, specifically to the Azure area. These are the projects that I often like to use and see my customers use on the platform. And if you're starting a new project and you're not sure which path to take, or you want to explore a little bit, hey, what models are available, what solutions are available as a starting point, I would invite you to take a look. This is all YAML based, so if you have a feeling that I forgot something, feel free to open a pull request. I'm happy to review that. But there's another aspect. No matter how good your AI application is, there are some things that are actually common concerns across many different AI applications. And those are typically solved, and I see many customers do that. And you have to clarify, I typically work with bigger customers, so not so much on the startup area, more on bigger industries such as finance or retail and so on. And in this area, it makes sense to build an AI Hub landing zone. AI Hub Gateway Landing Zone. The name is a bit long. And what this does is it solves those common concerns that all the apps that you're building on Azure have, such as scalability, enterprise logging, governance, in one single place. Under the hood, the GenAI gateway capability of the Azure API management are used for that. And it's really a great way to accelerate like the path to production of your AI app workloads. So similarly to you may want to start with a base camp. If you climb up a mountain, this can serve as a little bit of a base camp, and then you can spend some time there getting to know Gen AI development and reach the peak faster. Yeah. Cool. So what did we learn today? So it's important to pick the right path. I gave you the overview of the landscape of the different solution accelerators, to kind of go shopping and see around what's available. It's important to not start too complex, but also not too easy. If you have a difficult problem to solve that only a complex multi-agent system can do, then by all means, don't try to solve that with a too simplistic approach. But it goes both ways. Yeah, and then use the right equipment. So I talked about the importance of document intelligence, and also the vector database and vector search, such as Azure AI Search. It's important to use the right tool for the job, and those are typically available for your use on the Azure service. Yeah. Then set up a base camp. So invest in an Azure AI landing zone for those common concerns. And this is also an important one, the important learning. Get the business experts into the room early. So I alluded on that earlier on. But AI applications, it's text in, text out. And it's much harder to test those or even find out what kind of questions you may want to ask than a traditional user interface that you can click around. There's only so many clicks that you can do. But in a text window, anyone could ask anything, right? And there we should really value the inputs of the business experts and not let them just do the testing themselves, but give us a framework of like sample answers and questions, and have automated evaluations in place to assess the quality of our output. Yeah, that's my session for today. Thank you so much. Any questions? I see we have the link shared, so thank you so much for that. Cool. Then let me quickly stop my screen.
All right.
José Luis, you're here. Yeah, I was just trying to find out how to do that. Okay. Thank you so
no,
much.
I did not do that. Alexander is the magician behind it. So he's handling quite the full chapters and groups on himself. So thank you again, Alexander, for your work here. It's super fantastic. I wonder if you want to jump and be online, Alexander? Yes, no, but anyhow,
Hi guys, sure, of course. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think you deserve to be on the stage. You're a key part here. You have been fantastic. Alexander tried to give me permissions, but something happened with, licenses, right? So we can do magic with AI, but we get to get one license, and then we are stopped. Maybe 1 hour, maybe 1 moment, maybe days, weeks. You never know. So thanks again for the fantastic hosting and management of this. We got you glued when it was not expected. Thanks again. And of course, Aymen, thank you so much. It was great. I think it's a fantastic point of view of reality, how to get things done. Also, you can see he's really Swiss. He finished not on time, before time. So I applaud you for that. Really, really well done and very interesting. Will you share the slides? I think they have a lot of value. Yes.
Yeah, sure. I can share
that
it
would be
later
great.
on. I need to figure out how to export them and share them.
Sure. PDF should work. You can drop them on the meetup page of the group. That should perfectly fine. If you want, of
we
course.
will be able to do that.
Or put them in your GitHub and share your GitHub.
That's even better. I'll do that.
Okay, nice.
Cool.
So yeah, again, thank you so much. It was super cool. I think it's nice I really like this. I did not know this project is AI Hub Gateway. So it's this solution accelerator. I'm missing here all the things. And also, I think UI is growing so much that this is for high code. But what about when we are doing low code with a Power Platform, for example? I guess this is not included here, and this is the AI that you can code with, right?
Yeah, so in the end, this AI Hub Gateway landing zone is really giving you, it's an alternative to the Azure, oh no, it's giving you an API in the same way like Azure OpenAI would give you the API, right? So it's really for this
Yes.
path 2 and path 3 I was talking about. If you have like the full custom solution, or you have a solution that uses the integrated platform capabilities, then you would use this this base camp. If you have the
pretty cool.
low code solution, you don't need it.
Well, we are exploring it. We can say that. You know that we were in your offices like last week. That said, it's been a fantastic evening. I think it. I don't know about you. You tell me, but the time flow really quick. I think it's more or less 2 hours 10 minutes already. But it feels like I think like 5-10 minutes and time is out. So I think for me it has been fantastic. These person I invited are kind of my fans, so they have created almost the ecosystem, and they are being in responsibility of creating it. And some of them, even Chi, was the person brain that had, oh, what happens if we do something? We could call it agentic AI, right? I think it's pretty inspiring to hear him talk and respond to questions and explain us a bit all what he did today. So they are not here anymore. They had to leave. But thank you so much, Matthew, Mads, also Chi and Luis. And of course, I cannot say this would not have happened without you, Alexander. So herzlichen Danke, vielen Dank.
Sure.
Also, thank you so much, Aymen. I hope you will be again showing not just some slides, but code.
I would love to. Let's think about it.
You
Have
hear
a nice
that?
evening, everyone.
All right. Have a nice evening and see you on the next time, soon to be announced. So have a great evening.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye.